Gulf War. The Gulf War was an armed conflict between Iraq and a 42-country coalition led by the United States. The coalition's efforts against Iraq were carried out in two key phases: Operation Desert Shield, which marked the military buildup from August 1990 to January 1991, and Operation Desert Storm, which began with the aerial bombing campaign against Iraq on 17 January 1991 and came to a close with the American-led liberation of Kuwait on 28 February 1991. On the 2nd August 1990, Iraq, governed by Saddam Hussein, invaded neighboring Kuwait and fully occupied the country within 2 days. The invasion was primarily over disputes regarding Kuwait's alleged slant drilling in Iraq's Rumaila oil field, as well as to cancel Iraq's large debt to Kuwait from the recently ended Iran-Iraq War. After Iraq briefly occupied Kuwait under a rump puppet government known as the Republic of Kuwait, it split Kuwait's sovereign territory into the Saddamiyat al-Mitla district in the north, which was absorbed into Iraq's existing Basra governorate, and the Kuwait governorate in the south, which became Iraq's 19th governorate. The invasion of Kuwait was met with immediate international condemnation, including the adoption of UN Security Council Resolution 660, which demanded Iraq's immediate withdrawal from Kuwait, and the imposition of comprehensive international sanctions against Iraq, with the adoption of UN Security Council Resolution 661. British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and U.S. President George H.W. Bush deployed troops and equipment into Saudi Arabia and urged other countries to send their own forces. Many countries joined the American-led coalition, forming the largest military alliance since World War II. The bulk of the coalition's military power was from the United States, with Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, and Egypt as the largest lead-up contributors in that order. United Nations Security Council Resolution 678, adopted on the 29th of November 1990, gave Iraq an ultimatum, expiring on the 15th of January 1991, to implement Resolution 660 and withdraw from Kuwait, with member states empowered to use all necessary means to force Iraq's compliance. Initial efforts to dislodge the Iraqis from Kuwait began with aerial and naval bombardment of Iraq on the 17th of January, which continued for 5 weeks. As the Iraqi military struggled against the coalition attacks, Iraq fired missiles at Israel to provoke an Israeli military response, with the expectation that such a response would lead to the withdrawal of several Muslim-majority countries from the coalition. The provocation was unsuccessful. Israel did not retaliate, and Iraq continued to remain at odds with most Muslim-majority countries. Iraqi missile barrage against coalition targets in Saudi Arabia were also largely unsuccessful, and on the 24th of February 1991, the coalition launched a major ground assault into Iraqi-occupied Kuwait. The offensive was a decisive victory for the coalition, who liberated Kuwait and promptly began to advance past the Iraq-Kuwait border into Iraqi territory. 100 hours after the beginning of the ground campaign, the coalition ceased its advance into Iraq and declared a ceasefire. Aerial and ground combat was confined to Iraq, Kuwait, and areas straddling the Iraq-Saudi Arabia border. The conflict marked the introduction of live news broadcasts from the front lines of the battle, principally by the American network CNN. It has also earned the nickname Video Game War, after the daily broadcast of images from cameras on board American military aircraft during Operation Desert Storm. The Gulf War has also gained fame for some of the largest tank battles in American military history: the Battle of Medina Ridge, the Battle of Norfolk, and the Battle of 73 Easting Ground Campaign. A 90,000-round artillery preparation fire on Iraqi defensive positions preceded the major ground assault, lasting 2.5 hours. 180. 1st Infantry Division Artillery, which included 4 3FA Battalion, was decisive during artillery combat operations, performing multiple raids and fire missions. These combat operations resulted in the destruction of 50 enemy tanks, 139 APCs, 30 air defense systems, 152 artillery pieces, 27 missile launchers, 108 mortars, and 548 wheeled vehicles, 61 trench lines and bunker positions, 92 dug-in and open infantry targets, and 34 logistical sites. 181. The ground campaign consisted of 3 or possibly 4 of the largest tank battles in American military history. 182. 183. The battles at 73 Easting, Norfolk, and Medina Ridge are well noted for their historical significance. Some consider the Battle of Medina Ridge the largest tank battle of the war. Other sources consider the Battle of Norfolk the largest tank battle of the war and the second largest tank battle in American history. 184. The U.S. Marine Corps also fought the biggest tank battle in its history at Kuwait International Airport. 183. The U.S. 3rd Armored Division also fought a significant battle at Objective Dorset, not far from where the Battle of Norfolk was taking place. The U.S. 3rd Armored Division destroyed approximately 300 enemy combat vehicles during this particular encounter with Iraqi forces. The U.S. 7 Corps was the primary combat formation of the coalition forces. 185. It was a formidable fighting force consisting of 1,487 tanks, 1,384 infantry fighting vehicles, 568 artillery pieces, 132 MLRS, 8 missile launchers, and 242 attack helicopters. 186. It had a total troop strength of 146,321 troops. 187. Its primary full-strength fighting formations were the 1st Armored Division, United States, the 3rd Armored Division, United States, and the 1st Infantry Division, United States. Its Task Force 1 to 41 Infantry would be the spearhead of 7 Corps. In addition, the Corps had the 2nd Cavalry Regiment, United States, to act as a scouting and screening force, and 2 further heavy divisions, the 1st Cavalry Division, United States, and the United Kingdom's 1st Armored Division, as well as the U.S. 11th Aviation Group. 7 Corps fought a number of large battles against Iraqi forces, some of them historical in scope and size. 3 of the battles at Norfolk, Medina Ridge, and 73 Easting are considered among the largest tank battles in history. By the end of combat operations on the 28th February 1991, U.S. 7 Corps had driven 260 kilometers, 160 miles, captured 22,000 Iraqi soldiers, and destroyed 1,350 Iraqi tanks, 1,224 armored personnel carriers, 285 artillery pieces, 105 air defense systems, and 1,229 trucks. The primary combat vehicles of the American divisions were the M1A1 Abrams tank and the Bradley fighting vehicle. The primary American artillery system was the self-propelled M109 howitzer. The primary American attack helicopter was the Boeing AH-64 Apache, Army, with the Bell AH-1 Cobra, Army and Marines also being in theater. The U.S. Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II ground attack aircraft would distinguish itself during the Gulf War, aided by the OH-58D JATT Eyes in the Sky. Together, they inflicted significant damage on Iraqi ground forces. U.S. A-10 Warthog crews would destroy 900 Iraqi tanks, 2,000 other military vehicles, and 1,200 artillery pieces during combat operations. The U.S. Marine Corps was represented by the 1st Marine Division and the 2nd Marine Division. They were supported by the U.S. Army's 2nd Armored Division's Tiger Brigade to provide the Marines with additional armor support. Marine armor units mostly consisted of the older M60 tank. The 1st Marine Division destroyed around 60 Iraqi tanks near the Bergen oil field without suffering any losses. The 1st Marine Division Task Force Ripper led the drive to the Kuwait International Airport on 27 February 1991. Marine Task Force Ripper destroyed about 100 Iraqi tanks and armored personnel carriers, including T-72 tanks. The division commander, Major General J.M. Myatt, said, "During the first day of combat operations, 1st Platoon, D Company, 3rd Tank Battalion, destroyed 15 Iraqi tanks. The Marines also destroyed